so much of research really is storytelling. As researchers, we collect and use data to tell stories that we hope are going to make a difference. And today I have a story that is troubling, but probably not particularly surprising. It's a story of low-income high school students and how they were disproportionately affected by the pandemic. So hello, my name is Jennifer Hamilton. And before we really dig in, I wanted to share the next slide with you. So next slide, please. So if you know me, you know that I love to talk about this stuff. So after the end of this webinar, I'm going to try to keep it going over on Twitter. So if you'd like to join me, we can continue a conversation there. You can find me by searching for my handle, which is @LimeyGirl, or using the hashtag NORC chat, which is here on the screen. Okay, to begin. Next slide. My team and I applied for an NSF grant back in the day because of this statement here on the screen. And as a first-generation college student myself, this is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. The next slide shows the two main goals of the study and kind of summarizes our methodology, right? So the first goal is to really understand what was happening in the spring of 2020. And then the second goal is to measure it. And this presentation here focuses on the goal one, the understanding. Goal two, we're still working on, we're still analyzing the data, so we'll be reporting on that at a later date. But to understand what was happening in the spring of 2020, we used the AmeriSpeak standing team panel, and I think Michael Dennis is going to talk about that AmeriSpeak a little bit later. But we used the teen panel, which is a nationally representative sample of students aged 13 to 17, and we surveyed them about their STEM learning during the pandemic. So to summarize the results of that AmeriSpeak teen panel, if we go to the next slide and the next one, we started off asking about what was happening prior to COVID. So we found that 46% of high school juniors and seniors across the country had considered a STEM career, which is amazing. But when we broke that down by low income versus higher income, we can see that it's very different. So students in higher income families, it's 73%, in lower income families, it's 34%. And that is a statistically significant difference. So if we move to the next slide, we can see that these disparities prior to COVID are already concerning. So looking at, grades, the lower income students reported lower instances of getting mostly A's and B's, and also their enrollment in STEM classes was lower than the higher income peers as well. Next slide. So next we turn our attention to what was happening during COVID. So this is again in the spring of 2020. And the next slide will show us that students were experiencing a wide range of challenges as they were accessing their online learning. So as might be expected, there are some students that didn't have internet at home, or if they had it, it was very spotty. If they had a device to access it, sometimes they had to share with their siblings and their parents who were also maybe working from home. They didn't have a webcam, they didn't have a calculator, and those kinds of things made it very difficult. And the next slide shows some more challenges in terms of, if you can just go back one more. Thanks. So this is kind of other obstacles that they were facing in terms of, like, the home was noisy and crowded and it was hard to pay attention. The teachers were using different kinds of applications and they had to bounce between different applications, which was challenging. So there's a wide range of challenges for students. And we asked them actually to kind of grade their teachers and their schools, and that's shown on the next slide. And they gave overall their teachers and grades a grade of C for being able to accommodate their needs and being effective at remote instruction. And to be clear, teachers and schools were asked to do a lot, like a lot in the spring of 2020. They had to shift everything to remote instruction on a dime, and it was very, very challenging. And I think over the course of the spring semester, teachers and schools got much better at this. So the next slide is kind of where we start getting into kind of the nitty-gritty here. So we asked them if they were worried about their STEM education moving forward. And we can see that 35% of students overall were worried about their STEM education. And again, when we break this down by income, we can see that it's 83% of lower income students were worried compared to 67% of higher income students. And this kind of translates also into, thank you, into this next slide where we looked at the students who were enrolled in AP STEM classes. So this is calculus, biology, chemistry, physics. These are the ones, and there are many more obviously, but these are the ones that were kind of ready to be showcased. So here we can see, for example, in physics, of the students who took AP physics, 51% of them did not take the exam. So these are the students who were already like achieving and interested and motivated in STEM classes, enrolling in AP classes, and then not taking the exam. And if we go to the next slide, we break this out again by income, and you can see that it's really the lower income students who didn't take the exam. And this is the part that's very concerning. So for the STEM pipeline into college, it's being narrowed here at this point of the students who are interested in STEM, who are taking the classes. But at this point, because of COVID, we anticipate, we assume that it's because of COVID, they're not taking the exam. So it's very concerning. And I want to point out that the College Board actually did a whole lot to encourage students to take the exam. They shortened the exam, they put videos up on YouTube, they were handing out devices, they got grants to do that. So a lot of effort went into making sure that students were able to take the exam, but they ended up, not doing it at these rates here. So just to pause and take a breath, because I get a little bit riled up here. The next slide goes into goal 2, and we haven't finished goal 2 yet, but we know from the existing literature on the next slide here that people, other researchers out there are estimating a learning loss of 50 to 63% in math, but a lot of these estimates are based on assumptions and some slide research, and often don't include high school. So our measurement part of the study that we're working on right now, using infinite campus data of, I think, 2.5 million high school students, is really going to be able to allow us to measure everything a lot more precisely, and precisely for different kinds of students living in different areas and that kind of thing. So the big question is, where do we go from here? And those are the next few slides. So where do we go from here? I mean, and this is up for debate. This is not me kind of giving out all of the answers or anything. So, as education professionals, I'd sure love to hear what other people have to say. But on the next slide, I have a few ideas. We need to prioritize access to online education. I think remote education is not going to go away. And so we need to work on that. And, even though I say assess students early to differentiate instruction, I don't necessarily mean like standardized tests. I think teachers know very well which students' needs, what students' needs are. And so assessing them so we can figure out who is where. Coordination, more time for teachers to plan with the other teachers, looping, and high dose tutoring. So research-based programs that we know are effective, like high dose tutoring, can be implemented, including things like extended learning time and summer academies. So that is the end of my presentation. I hope I didn't go over too much time. Thank you.